He don't play.
Fuck.
I wrote down way too. Look, I'm gonna just show you.
There you go.
I wrote down way too much shit. Okay.
You got some
Um.
small handwriting.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah, it looks pretty
I look at
detailed.
my handwriting and I'm reminded of what my grandmother used to tell me. She used to teach. She was a school teacher when she retired. That I write small and is reflective of my self-confidence.
Wow.
I'm like, well,
You should be writing in all caps.
yeah, I'm
Huge
like,
letters.
Yeah.
why don't we just kind of go through each of our starts, if you will? What kind of was the origin of, I guess, bodybuilding slash training, and then I'm assuming this is similar for all of us. It eventually became competing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is going to be very common with quite a few of us and probably a lot of the people that we know, but mine started from sports.
Yeah.
I played football for I don't even know how long, how many years. It was a long time. And after football was over, obviously you're not good enough for D1 college or the NFL. It's like, okay, what do I do now? Right? Because football is such a big part of my life. And it's like the one thing that we did for football was we always trained,
Yeah.
always worked out. And keep in mind, obviously, it was bench and squat and those compound movements that are good for, being an athlete. But I was like, well, I'm just going to stay in the gym until I figure out what I'm going to do, right? And then it turned out that the gym was what I was going to do,
Yeah.
right? We had a college program at where I went to school at Slippery Rock in Pennsylvania, it's a little bit north of Pittsburgh, and they had an amateur bodybuilding club, and they actually had their own show at the university, and they would have Gary Udit and those folks from Pittsburgh come up and judge the show. So I've known Gary Udit for years, and some of those NPC A team guys for years because they came up to Slippery Rock in 2010, 2011 when we started. But I just got into it from sports and stayed in it just because it's been something that always keeps me going. Like when things are going wrong in life, it's the one thing that is always right. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like you could have anything going wrong. You go to the gym, it's very hard not to feel better after that. So that's kind of why I stay in it and how I got started.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think a lot of guys, and I won't belabor this too much because I want to hear Joe's, I want to hear your story, man. But we all, at least for me, started out with training 6 days a week,
Yeah.
sometimes 7 days a week. And then when you learn that, yeah, that's not very effective or efficient in
Mhm.
terms of hypertrophy and recovery, and you have to shave some of those days off, you're like, those are the hardest days. I want to
Yeah.
go to the gym. And you're like, oh crap. It's just occurred to me that that is the one consistent, constant thing that gives me this. I mean, I know, yeah, we get an endorphin rush and whatever, but for me, it was more than that. It made me feel like I did what I was supposed to do that day. So it's really interesting to think about because I don't really spend much time thinking about that, I guess, anymore. Uh, but yeah, I felt the same way.
And the older we get, I mean, I think we're all of us, all three of us are in our late 30s, right? Mid to late 30s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the older we get, the more time we need to spend resting as opposed to training. I mean, I've seen more progress training less often than I have 6, 7 days a week. So, something
100%.
to keep in mind as you get older.
Yeah.
You know
Older
what?
and
Nick Walker
stronger,
just
I feel
posted
like.
something about that. Did y'all see that video? He was like,
Yeah.
when people ask him what he does for his arms because they're like 24 inches, he's like, yeah, the less I train them, the bigger they get.
Yeah.
Yep. I feel like you get bigger and stronger and it takes longer to recover too. So it's not linear. Like when you're a beginner, you could probably train every single day and gain weight because you're what are you squatting
Newbie.
135 and curling 20-pound dumbbells, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Those newbie gains.
it's
Yeah.
true.
Yep.
So what about you, Joe? What was the etiology for
Yeah.
Joe?
Mine
The
was
Genesis.
a little
Yeah,
more non-linear because I kind of went into the gym and then out of the gym for a while and then back in. But I was probably like the only kid in my high school that worked out. Like no one worked out besides maybe the football players. I don't know about you guys, but like it wasn't big when I was 15 years old, like the gym life.
yeah.
But I
Yeah.
grew up going to the gym with my mom. Like she'd go to the gym and throw me like off to the side while she worked out and stuff. And her sister, my aunt, actually did a bodybuilding show in like the 80s. So I
Nice.
was kind of around it, I guess. And then when I got into high school, I just wanted to be stronger for basketball. So I'd go to the gym and everyone else on the team would make fun of me for wasting my time working out. But I
Same.
don't know. It like
Same.
helped with progress, so I don't understand why.
You're
And
not
then I
laughing
worked out through
now.
college and stuff. I obviously, played sports in high school, but it didn't translate to going to college. I went to UConn, so being on the UConn basketball team would have been pretty difficult.
He's a
Yeah.
Husky.
Um, yeah, we won two championships while I was there, though, so that would have been cool if I had two
Yeah.
rings. But
Yeah.
best case scenario, I would have rode the bench for 4 years. So. Um, but yeah, I worked out through college, and then I needed something on top of just like club sports, so I picked up mountain biking. And when I graduated college, I kind of stopped working out, and I just really focused on riding mountain bikes for like 7, 8 years. Got into motocross and stuff like that, and
Oh
then
man.
I got kind of ballsy on the dirt bike a little bit and fell a couple times on some big jumps. Had to go to the hospital once, and I kind of scared myself. So I started kind of easing back into the gym. One of my guys, buddies that I met at work, he didn't compete, but he was into like following bodybuilding. So he started teaching me how to train for like hypertrophy and stuff. And with that absence of mountain bikes and dirt bikes, I needed something to fill my time, and I'm like one of those people that when I do something I'd go head first 100% into it. So
Yeah.
like it just turned into like full on bodybuilding. I competed maybe a year and a half after I got back into the gym and then just kept going after that. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yep.
Is uh is Supercross or motocross big in Connecticut or in New England?
It's not super huge because it's really hard to find public tracks. There's only like one or two in the state.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bigger thing down south, especially where
For
it's warm
sure.
year round. But I actually got into woods riding first because I used to ride ATVs when I was a kid.
You were out there doing hair scrambles, man?
Stuff like that. Yeah, that was the shit I
Oh
liked. I never got
shoot.
into like competitive style though.
Yeah.
I stayed away from that. I was just doing it for fun. But yeah, I used to ride ATVs. My dad got me a quad when I was like 10, so I was riding behind his house like my whole childhood, and then I eventually bought a dirt bike and switched over to like two wheels and yeah, and then started riding the track a little bit, and that's when I started hurting myself. So,
See, I'm heavily like visual. I'm
yep.
imagining this 6'4" almost like a grasshopper riding an ant,
Yeah.
hitting jumps and doing knickknacks and stuff.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah. I had to get
sorry.
bar risers on the bike to make it fit me better because those
Yeah.
bikes are made for like 5'8" dudes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yep.
Joe made an interesting point. He said back then and back in the day when we all first got started doing this was like the mid 2000s,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
that was a time where this gym culture, bodybuilding culture was not a big thing. It was not popular. It was not really like what it is today, like right now. That was like the end of the Sean Ray, Kevin
Uh-huh.
era, and it was the heyday of like Ronnie and Jay.
Yeah.
That was the big rivalry back then was Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler, and I was such a big Ronnie and Jay guy. Like I love those
Yep.
guys, but it was totally different back then. Like
It was not
now
mainstream at all.
yeah, like now it's a lot more mainstream, and I think it's because of folks like C-Bomb and those guys like that who've made it a little bit more mainstream. But back
Yeah,
then,
like
dude,
attainable looking physiques.
you had to have some kind of motivation externally to do it because now, I mean, you don't really have it's the cool thing to do, right?
Exactly.
Back then, you had to have a reason. So I
Yeah.
thought that was cool
Oh
that
yeah.
Joe brought that up because it had me remembering. I'm like, yeah, that time there was only like two guys in the school that really trained hard like that.
Yeah. I legit like got teased by everyone on the basketball team for training.
Same. I used
Yeah.
to train out. I used to train after school every day, and people would be like,
Yep.
"Why do you do that?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Because I want to."
Yep.
That's wild. That's wild.
Yep.
See, it was a little weird for me. It was different. Like 3/4 of my school were into bodybuilding because I was
Oh
homeschooled.
wow!
There you go.
So like it started, I was probably 13 when I finally started going to the gym to grow. But prior to that, I was playing basketball and soccer since I could, I guess, like 5 years old. Soccer was the first thing. I played both all the way through high school. Um, Senior year, midway through, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to go to the gym. And so I dropped, uh, pissed off two varsity coaches and was like, I don't want to, I'm good. Um, and so it started for me though, because of my dad, um, and my brother. My brother is 6'1", and he was always bigger than me. He's 2 years older than me, but he's one of those people he could just eat and then bam, he was growing. And he had I've told him this, I'm going to say it here. He's such a waste in terms of bodybuilding of genetic potential. I'm like, I would kill to have some of this because not only does he grow fast, he has these quad like muscle bellies for his vastus lateralis, his outer suite. He looks like, you ever seen remember M Bison from Street Fighter? He had those pants, they like cut out really hard and shit.
You said M
That's
Bison.
that's what he looked like. That's what his legs look like. I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. And but he never, he's told me, he's like, I don't have the discipline you have, man. I just don't want to do all that. And I'm like, well, so for growing up though, that was what it was. I was chasing my dad and my brother, and they were both. Our dad obviously he was genetically, we probably got it from him the most. I got my mom's genetics in terms of my metabolism, and some of my structure. She's taller, but uh our dad was a freak. Like he was just ridiculously strong. No gear, okay, all natural. The gym was holding a bench press contest. He didn't train for it. They're like, hey Mike, man, you should do this, Mike. Yeah. And so he's like, all right. He goes down there. He's like, I have no idea. I don't know what to put on here. So they put 415 on, no problem. The head judge was like, dude, um, let's just see. So he put 450 on there, benched it. I'm like, this isn't fair, right?
People
Like,
train
because
their whole life and never get even close to that.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
I've never even tried 450 ever. I don't ever plan on it. I don't want a pec tear,
Nope.
and so
There's that.
that was what it was like. My brother was strong. He was big. My dad was like that. So growing up, they got me into it. I'm like Joe. I am obsessive. So I had all the magazines, dude. We had a neighbor who was moving out, and he knew I was into that stuff. And he's like, hey, come by the garage. I got all these. He had stacks of magazines from the 70s and the 80s. I took all of them. And not just because they had those centerfolds of like the models in them either. That was just a bonus. So I took all that stuff. I and I just poured myself into it. I took my dad's old diets from his nutritionist slash coach. I think his name was Sean. And I tried to eat as much food as he was eating. That was a horrible mistake. Lasted one day. Um, but that's what it was. So it started that way. I did sports and everything too. It was just soccer and basketball until I was 18. Then it was martial arts, and then I became obsessed with that in the gym. But like you, James, I was going to soccer practice. Before I would hit practice, I would go do legs. And they were like, what, why would you do that for soccer? Like you're getting ready to run for, an hour plus. I'm like, I got to get it in. And, so I didn't know any better. I didn't understand at the time that, yeah, this is not going to work. I'm going to need to eat a lot more food. I didn't get that at the time, but that's how my brain was. And so once uh once I graduated, by that time, once I graduated high school, at that point I was like, yeah, I never planned on competing because I was like, I'm too tall. I'm never gonna fill out enough. I'm never gonna be big enough. But my at the time girlfriend would come over to the apartment and she would be subjected every single time. My friends can attest to this. Ronnie Coleman, the Unbelievable. I had that. I ain't gonna lie. I pirated it, but I had that playing every time. I'd be eating and watching Ronnie in the gym with 12 plates on the
Leg
landmine
press.
row where he was doing what he called close square rows in the corner. And he would just, and I'm like, this is insane. Sitting there on the and for people who don't understand, they won't appreciate this as much. But when he was doing his military barbell overhead pressing seated and unracking it from the front with 315, that is a whole lot different than unracking it from behind when you're up here. I'm like, this is madness. I don't care about his form. It doesn't matter anymore. At this point, the level of strength, of raw strength that he was exhibiting, 5.5 weeks out, 800 pounds. I don't think anybody else doing this. I'm like, no, man, ain't nobody else doing
No
this.
one's still doing that.
Yeah,
Dom, Dom, I got to tell you a story real quick. So
yeah,
you know how I'm out here in Vegas, right?
yeah,
I train at New Tech Gym, and it just opened like a month and a half ago. So right around Olympia was when it opened,
yeah,
and so right after the Olympia, there was still quite a few people in there that were in town for the Olympia, and I was in there training chest, and I'm on this one chest press machine, and I'm getting towards the end of my set when it's getting hard, right? And I'm trying to finish the last two reps, and I shit you not, all of a sudden I hear from the other side of the gym, "Yeah, buddy." I'm like, I'm like, hold on, hold on, hold on. I was like, I know people imitate that all the time,
yeah.
but was that actually Ronnie Coleman? Like, and I got up and I went over to the corner where it came from, and I shit you not, Ronnie Coleman is sitting there with Derek Lunsford, and they were doing some photo shoot after Derek won the Olympia,
Yeah.
and Ronnie's sitting there like, ain't nothing but a peanut. No shit. I'm like, oh my god.
I got to meet him when he was still competing. He came down to Norfolk, Virginia, for Linda Murray's show,
Yeah,
and I had met her there too, but and she was still built.
she
Um,
still looks good.
she still looks. I saw her. She was at Pittsburgh. She was walking out
Yeah,
of the gate.
she's like in her 60s or
Yeah.
something, and she looks like she's in her 30s or
Oh
40s. I'm
yeah.
like, still looks good, man.
Very. She was very smart about how she approached it. Clearly,
Very, very.
because most people don't come out looking like that.
No.
Especially, yeah. So I ran into Ronnie though by accident. He went to Outback Steakhouse, and my friend of mine was a bartender there, and he hits us up. The rest of us are all chilling. I don't remember what we were doing, and he's like, "Hey man, there's this really big black dude here." And I'm like, "Okay, how big?" He's like, "This dude is freaking huge." And I thought about it. I was like, "Wait a minute. Linda's here. She's got a show here. We went. Ronnie? What are the chances? What are the chances Ronnie Coleman is here and they're getting ready to close?" Okay. I was like, dude, we're on our way. So we all drove up there. Okay. And sure as hell, he's sitting there in this booth with his buddy. Obviously, they're sitting across from each other because you can't put two of them on the same side. And so we sit down and they're like egging me on, like, dude, you gotta go say something. You follow this, you love this stuff. So I was like, I don't want to bother this man while he's eating, you know? And they convinced me, so I go over there. I'm like, I'm gonna just walk by on my way to the restaurant and just say, hey, he is exactly like the videos. He is
Yep.
exact that is the guy. What you see is what you get. I go over there and say, hey, Ronnie Coleman, he's got a this is how I always remember it. It was like watching a crab eat because his forearms were so big, they were resting on the table. And then all he had to do was this. He didn't even have to like, come down to he was just shoveling the food in. And he was eating steak. I remember because he was still chewing it as he was talking to me. Oh yeah, no, man, you fine. Yeah. How you doing? What's your name? I'm like, oh my gosh. Those stories about when they were doing the Grand Prix and
Yep.
had him come to the hotel room. Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
he's getting Ronnie drunk, and he's like, "Oh, I like that.
Oh
I
yeah,
like
no,
that.
man, have another one. You need to have another one.
Have
That's
another shot,
crazy.
Ronnie."
See, and to me, I'm like that era, that's what I think of. I just imagine these guys going on show after show after show and just having a blast.
You know what's cool about that, Dom, is you say that, and that's kind of what like Pittsburgh and New York was like for me this year. Like I know the three of us kind of we did that together,
Yeah.
and we saw each other in Pittsburgh, we saw each other in New York, and before the show, during the show, after the show, I mean, I was just like, man, I'm doing this with people I consider friends. Who, back in the amateur days, maybe you would be like, oh man, that dude's doing a show, like fuck him, like, but like now it's like now it's like, man, I'm doing a show with Joe. I'm doing a show with Dom. Like it's gonna be fun. Like having a bunch of tall dudes
Yeah.
finally instead of competing with a bunch of short dudes. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh man, it is. That's especially I look at it like again, I think I said this before, but this isn't my this isn't the sole means by which I live and provide for myself and my family. This is I don't want to call it just a hobby because I
A little
do
bit more
want
than
to,
that,
yeah, yeah, it's still a little bit it's beyond that. I still want to do well. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm having too much fun. Too much fun to make it doesn't if work was this much fun, I don't know
right?
what I would do with myself.
Right.
Uh and that's one of those things that kind of takes us back to the I think the original subject was, that that mentality. And for me anyway, it was already there, which made this bodybuilding endeavor all the more natural. Um, maybe that's a poor choice of words, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's like I have people who are like my brother even said it. He's like, I just don't have that discipline. And to me, I'm like, you can't, I can't fathom that. I'm not
Yep.
saying I never, have a cheat meal or I never, deviate and miss something, but
Yep.
I can't imagine that being a reason for not doing something.
And
Uh,
that's the separator, Dom, is the discipline and the want to, right? Someone else can't want this for you. I can't want
exactly.
this for you. You gotta want it. And what's crazy about it is I'm one of the last, I think maybe two or three people left out of the whole group of kids that I went to college with who started this bodybuilding thing left still doing it. And
Yeah.
the three of us left are pros. But what's crazy is some of those folks that we started this bodybuilding journey with had way better genetic potential, way better, muscle belt, you name it,
Yeah.
but they didn't have the want to, the mental capacity to really desire to do this. And that's what is crazy is um we talk about genetics being important in bodybuilding, and it is, but you can have the most amazing genetics in the world. If you don't have the want to and that inner desire, it almost doesn't matter because someone else who doesn't necessarily have the best genetics, if they have that want to inside, they have that desire and that passion, they're gonna pursue this, and they're probably gonna go further with it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I agree.
And I think comparison, like you said, Dom, is the thief of joy in bodybuilding. I know it's very, you know, cliche to say this, but like you cannot compare yourself to other people in this sport. And it's like, how am I not supposed to do that when these people are the supposed standard, right? You don't know what goes into that standard,
Yeah.
right? Like, so let's talk hypothetically, or not hypothetically, about classic. Let's talk about Ramon Dino. Let's talk
Yeah.
about him, right? This guy has been at it for a long time. He's got amazing genetics. He's from Brazil,
Yeah.
right? He has a coach who's very knowledgeable. And he's somebody that, and I don't know him personally, but like I believe that his only job as a pro is being a pro. He doesn't have a 9 to 5 day job and then has to go to the gym after work and hope that he can get his meals in during his daytime at his job, right? His job is to be a pro.
Yeah.
So there's so many circumstances and different things that go into these people and what they do, and that there other folks are comparing themselves to as the standard, right? And they don't know what they're really comparing themselves to.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Let alone
It's
what they're
almost like they're
doing.
setting themselves up for failure, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this is not a sport like a lot of people like to compare and say, look at the NBA. Why do we do this stuff the way we do? We should be like them or like the NFL or like NHL or whoever. Okay, maybe from an organizational standpoint, there are some things that we could do, but from a competitor standpoint, this ain't a. I hate to say this because it is and it isn't, but when you're on stage, it's not a team sport. You have a
That's
team behind you. Yeah, you might have a coach and a mentor and a posing coach and all these things. Great. But when you get on the floor, metaphorically speaking, it ain't a team sport.
No.
Um, and so when you start trying to equivocate some of these things, it's not gonna, it's not apples to apples, Um, and to try to compare yourself to another competitor, you have zero idea what they're doing in their prep, what they're doing in their off season, what stuff they're running, what stuff they're not. And then and that leads to the whole arguments about, oh, this dude's lying. He's got to be doing this, that, and the other. The sad thing is that you're so focused on that, you're probably missing the mark on your own shit. And they're just going to continue doing this while you're stuck here dwelling on all the wrong stuff. Um, but yeah, it's yeah, so that leads to kind of the question you had asked before, which is, how we got here, right? Which is very quite similar, but why we're still here. Like, how did we go from started working out because of sports went away, kept doing it, and it's like, well, that's the case for a lot of people, but why does it persist?
Well, the thing that comes to mind for me, Dom, is what you were talking about earlier, where it started out as a hobby, right? It was a
Yeah,
hobby for quite a few people, and then uh, you start realizing, at least in our cases, I could probably speak for all of us, that hey, I'm actually kind of good at this. Like, and I might be able to do something with this. And Joe and I actually did NPC Nationals. Was it 22? We did it together,
Yeah.
and him and I both got in the top five. It was his first time. It was my second time in the top five, and it's like you can't get top five at the biggest national show unless there's something to you, right?
yeah,
And that's when I think, and Joe, you can speak for this too, but I was like, wow, I can actually do something with this. This might be more than just a hobby,
Yeah.
right? And and then it became more than that. So now, why I still do it for, I'll speak for me, is because I want to see how far I can take it. I just want to see, what is my ceiling? Is my ceiling only getting top five at pro shows? Is my ceiling only, making it to the Olympia and getting 16th place? you
yeah.
know, is
Hey,
is
I'll
it
take that, dude. That's
is it more than that? Is it maybe getting invited to the Arnold Classic? Like, you have to think about those things for yourself. Like, how far can I take this, and where are you looking to be by the time this is done? And say like, hey, I did these things,
yeah,
right? I didn't want to be that person that just got a pro card and was like, okay, I'm good. I can just use that and start a coaching business and say that I was a pro. No,
Yeah.
I wanted to do the big shows. I wanted to do Pittsburgh. I wanted to do New York. And then now it's like, hey, I want to do more big shows. Maybe Tampa, maybe Texas, maybe Dom, you did Texas. So I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Like
Yeah.
you wanna look back on this thing when you're done and say, I did that. And that's why I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't have any aspirations of winning the Olympia. I think that would be a little delusional. I think I got more in me. I think I can get
Exactly.
better. Um, the first show I ever did, the owner of the Super Gym came up to me. He's like, "You can get a pro card if you keep at this." And I didn't believe him until nationals, and I got first call out, and I was like, "Oh, okay," because I was self-coached at that point. I was self-coached up until 2023.
That's
And then
crazy.
I finally was like, I think I'm going to try a coach thing. I don't think I can get myself where I need to be. And now I'm seeing how much progress I'm making with CJ, my current coach, with an off season because I never really did a real off season with a coach. And it's like, okay, I got a lot more potential that I need to find before I'm feeling content with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. John Jewett had a question. He had one of those Q&A things. And somebody asked him, "Hey, when do you know, that you're ready to retire? How long are you going to do this?" And he's like, um, he said something to the effect of, when I'm obsessed with progress, when I am no longer progressing in this sport and I can no longer keep moving in that direction, then I'll find something else.
Yep.
And it's like, you know what? I think that's where my head is. That will tell me that, or if my body starts breaking down on me, one of those two things will probably be how I know that, okay, um,
It's enough.
that's enough. Yeah.
Yep.
And so, I don't know when that moment will come. But until then, I'm having too much fun anyway, not to do it. I mean, like, I know what the plans are for next year. And I have to, the schedules, obviously we had messages about that. The schedule should be coming out hopefully in the next couple weeks. But if it aligns and all the dates align, then I'll be able to say, like Joe, like, I'm traveling internationally around the world to go stand on stage and do this. This to me, I'm like, this is fun, man. This is awesome.
Yes.
If I
Exactly.
make it to the Olympia, uh, that will be. I mean, I never even fathom something like that.
Right.
Um, so should that happen, I'll be ecstatic. I'll be like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I'm good. I could, yeah, it could end that day. Be like, all right, I'm good. Um, so yeah, I didn't start out set with some kind of, for me, it was, I'm going to do this first show just to see. It was also, I did it for Chris, even though he didn't know it at the time. I wanted to prove to him that I could finish because I'd had him as a coach and I dropped like 4 weeks out or something. And so when that, when I did the Cutler and I got out there, I was like, this is so cool. I was
Yep.
like, this is, yeah, I want to do this again. Now, it helps when you win, but even if I hadn't won, I it felt right. Like going out there. My dad even said it. He's like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "Do what?" He said, "You seem so comfortable. Like you didn't look like you were nervous at all." It's like, you know what? I don't know. It was just I know what was going through my head. I was in the zone. You're standing in line behind those people, and you're like, all right, I'm coming up. And I'm thinking to myself all these terrible thoughts that I probably shouldn't say out loud. And and I walk out there and I just, you just do it. Now, is it the same now as it was for that first show? No, it's a little different. I think James nailed it on the head. Um, going going into that show, I had that same mentality you mentioned. Like, F these guys. Nobody is taking this away from me. I don't know any of these guys, and I don't care.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to peel it out of my cold, dead hands. And and then, after that, it was like, okay, I see, I understand. I think I got an idea here of this experience and whatever. And so the universe was different because number one, I got there and I'm like, holy crap, everybody here looks ridiculous.
Mhm.
And then Joe walks out. I'm like, oh, he must be here for open. And I'm like, this is crazy. So, you
Oh, I
know,
got a funny story about the universe prep. So I was
oh
training at my gym, and the gym owner comes up to me. He's like, "You see Tuttle's guy?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because I was not really paying attention to who's doing the show. This is
yeah.
like 6 weeks out. Whenever the first time he posted you, he's like, "This dude's 6'3", and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh fuck." Okay.
dude, I have severe body dysmorphia because I
Yep.
saw you and I'm like, this dude's gonna win.
Yeah.
Like
So
this
then I
dude's
get
gonna,
backstage, and I remember that moment because I walk backstage with my coach at the time, and you're there, and you're just in your trunks.
yeah.
And my coach, I'm still wearing sweats and and a shirt or something, and my coach immediately like, take your shirt off right now. Take it off. He's like, I need. He's like, he wanted me to like size you up a little bit,
Oh my
and I was like,
gosh.
and then you come up and you're like, yo, you. I forget exactly what you said. Either asking me if I'm an open or like what the question was, and I was like,
Yeah,
okay, this guy's cool. It's gonna
yeah,
be a good battle. It'll be fun.
That's code for, am I going to have to go up on stage against you?
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm like, holy crap, this guy is monstrous.
Yeah.
And so the mindset for me there, because I did not expect to win. I was going there like, okay, it's gonna play out how it plays out, and I'm gonna do my best and try not to forget my routine, which I forgot anyway, and all that stuff, right? And there was only I shouldn't even say this, but I've grew up watching too much Dave Chappelle, and Dave Chappelle says that, and then he says it, so that's what I'm gonna do. Uh, there was only one person on my radar at that show, and that's because this individual had said something to me one day at the gym, and I'm like, huh, that was why would he say that? That's kind of.
Yeah.
And so they were at the show, and I had told Chris, I said, no matter what happens, I don't care as long as he doesn't beat me. And that didn't happen, and he didn't beat Joe either. And
Nope.
so yeah, that was fun, man. That was super, super fun.
But
It's like,
what Dom's talking about is like a perfectly good point here, though. It's like a sense of pride. Like it's another reason like you stay in it because it's a sense of pride. Like I don't want to lose to this guy.
yeah,
I want to compete with these high level athletes. I want to be
yes,
up there at this big show where like people care about like that. That's another reason. Like the fact that I get to go on stage with guys like you guys. Um, and then this past year, like I'll give you guys my personal story, Terrence Ruffin, right?
yes.
So in the IFBB, right, when we do shows, you guys come out in alphabetical order, right?
Mhm.
And my last name is Smith. Terrence is Ruffin, RU. So it's very, unless there's a Santini or something, like I'm going to be going up against Terrence right next in the lineup. So I'm like thinking to myself this whole prep, like, don't let Terrence Ruffin make you look stupid on stage because you know you're going to be right. So my entire prep, I was training because I knew he was doing Pittsburgh. I knew he was doing New York. We actually talked on Instagram a few times before the shows. And my entire prep, when cardio sucked, when training sucked, I'm like, you're going to go up against Terrence, dude. You
Mhm.
cannot let this dude make you look stupid in front of the whole world. And I use that as motivation to get through my preps. And obviously Terrence mopped the floor with me, right? But but for example, that picture on my Instagram, so a friend of mine from Pittsburgh took that photo, and I was like, wow, from this angle and this lighting, like I look really good next to Terrence. He's not making me look foolish, So I was like, hey,
You
I'm
look
gonna
like an amateur next to him.
yeah, I'm
Just
gonna
like
I'm gonna
everyone
pin
else.
that I'm gonna pin that photo on my Instagram because I actually look comparable to Terrence.
Yep.
So, and a big thing is we talked about how all of us are in our mid to late 30s. A lot of these guys that we're competing against in the pro league are in their 20s.
Yeah.
So
What,
that's another
23?
that yeah. So that's another reason I stay competing is like I kind of enjoy beating these 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like, oh, these guys are younger. They got more potential and blah blah blah. And a lot of these guys are influencers too, right? So they
Yeah.
got huge social media followings, and I'm not really like a influencer type of guy. So like when you go into the show and all these guys are getting all this hype, and it's like I'm gonna beat that guy.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's I mean there's a bunch of different pride things into the why, but you got to find those things for yourself. And if you can still easily find those things, you should probably still be competing. If you don't have those things anymore, it's like might be time, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah, New York was crazy for me. JM was backstage. He knew I had talked to JM for hours and hours before. And he knew where my head was. He knew I was still struggling with the idea of do I belong here? Is this, the pro league is different. It's very different.
Hmm.
The competition is just insane for a classic. And so New York, he pulled me aside after prejudging. I think it was after prejudging. He said, "So do you still feel the same way? Do you feel like you belong here now?" And it was like, "Okay, yeah, I guess so." Um, but that was a crazy, yeah. Especially, we went from Pittsburgh to that, and in my head, I'm like, okay, how much different is it going to be? It's going to be almost the same guys.
Pretty
Uh,
much.
and Chris worked his magic, and we made some changes that were pretty substantial. And yeah, I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing this. And you still have to. There still has to be a level of you have to be grounded enough to recognize, like Joe said. I don't think any of us is imagining going out there and being Mr. Olympia in the
Right.
classic division.
Yeah.
We know what that looks like. You know what that takes, and it's not only top tier max effort. It's along with top tier genetics. And yeah, occasionally somebody might come in off who has both of those things, so somebody slips in. Um, but that's few and far between. That's why Chris Bumstead won 6 in a row, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm not thinking that either. I'm not gonna sit here and fantasize over something that is wholly unrealistic. And at the same time, it doesn't bother me, right? I'm like, okay, I get it. You got to have some humility and say, I know I'm not. I know I'm older, and I know I'm not the best thing ever, and I know, I have. This is what I have, and this is what I have to work with.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a competitive thing too. Like if you still have that competitive drive, like for example, came from athletics, right? And it
Yeah,
was always competition in athletics, football, whatever sport it is. It's the competitive drive. Like I went to the Steve Carr Las Vegas Classic out here, the
yeah.
pro in Vegas. And there was two or three guys in that show that did New York and Pittsburgh. And I'm like, I went up against those guys earlier this year, right? And I'm watching I'm on the other side of it now, right? I'm watching these
You
guys
had to have
as
thought what I thought.
I competed with them earlier this year, and I'm seeing some of these guys in the lineup, and I'm like, I could have done well at this show, right?
That's exactly what I thought.
I could have gotten top five. I could have got top 10 or whatever. And if you still have that competitive drive, like if you go to a show and you're like, man, I could have done well in the show. I might want to do this next year. That kind of thing. That kind of still tells you you're not really done with this. Like your competitive drive is like, hey, like, I'm really cool with Dom. I'm really cool with Joe. We're friends. But when we were doing Pittsburgh and New York, it was like, fuck Dom. like,
Yeah,
I want to beat him. I want to beat Joe. Like, but
yeah.
then after, like you can even ask Joe after New York. Me and him had a huge bear hug outside in the
Yeah.
parking lot. Like, it's just
That's
It was
the
off.
competitive drive, the fun. It's still
Yeah.
fun, right?
it has to be there. That has to be there. And you're right. For those of us who played competitive sports growing up, especially there were times where I was playing when I was real young. My dad coached a soccer team just so he could beat my mom as a coach. And he had me on his team. And it was me and my best friend Ryan. There's freaking pictures. I still can see the pictures from when I was a kid. I'm running down the field with the ball, and he's standing. You can see him in the background on the sideline. And I remember he used to. He is a perfectionist. Um, and he put all the pressure on my ass, all of it.
Yep.
If you got the ball, you better be scoring.
Do something with it.
Um, and so yeah, we beat her, of course. But yeah, you got to be able to have that and know that it's not personal when you're out there doing the job. It's the job. And and then you even when you're on stage and you're doing that when they have that pose down, that's when you can kind of relax and breathe like now we're having fun, but we're still competing, right? I love the pose down part because that's when you're like, all right, I know the judging is pretty much over, and now we can all roughhouse.
Cut it
You know?
loose a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so yeah, man,
You know,
it's
you know that you bring that up, the pose down stuff. When we got to do that at New York, uh, we were backstage waiting to go back out, all 10 of us. I don't know if you remember this, Don, but I was talking to Terrence Ruffin backstage. I'm like,
yeah,
hey, I want to pose down with you.
I do
He's
remember.
like he's like bring it on. He's like bring it on, man. And I don't know if Jose Ma overheard that, but like I turned him. So like we're posing. And I was like, okay. Let's pose down.
Y'all did
And I
that
turned to my left.
muscular.
Yep.
So I turned to my left, and I thought Terrence was going to be standing there, and it was Jose Ma. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, and he's looking at me, and he gives me this look, like nodding his head. I'm like, he wants to do this. I'm like, all right. So we do it, and obviously he made me look small, right? Because he's a big guy, but and then that's the fun part, right?
Yeah,
So, um, you got to have fun doing this thing, and it's got to be fun to you. Like obviously, there's gonna be parts that suck, in the prep and the when you don't do as well on a show, and you're like, well, what could I have done better, and try not to feel defeated and whatnot. But you gotta still see it as fun and like have motivation to do better, and that's the big thing with this stuff is like, does it still excite you? Does it still light a fire underneath you? And when you see on Instagram like these recaps of the shows or like these pictures of the shows as they're going on, like, hey,
yeah,
this was the first call out, hey, this was the final call out, does it excite you to see who's in there? And hey, I could, it's got to be fun for you, and that's the thing. If it's not fun for you, then I think you need to potentially rethink it, right?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You can't.
The training, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
not every training session is always going to be fun, but I feel like you got to look at it as a whole. Like it's kind of like the beginners when when you're coaching someone and they're like, "Oh, my weight was up a pound today." I was like, "It doesn't matter. Look
yeah,
at it over, a wider range of time." And it's kind of the same thing. You're not always going to have good days, but overall, are you enjoying the process? Do you still have drive to get better? Do you want to, are you looking forward to competing again? Things like that.
Are you looking forward to improving?
To
yeah,
improving, yeah. Yep.
Right? Are you looking forward to seeing that progress, hopefully, that
Yeah.
you're looking to have so that next time you're on stage, you do better, right? Like,
Yep.
does that motivate you? Does that still
Yeah.
intrigue you? There's a lot of things that go into this sport as far as the mentality side of it. We could probably be here for the next 6 hours talking about that stuff, but
Yeah.
if I had to summarize it, it's just, does it still motivate you? Do you still have fun doing it, even when it's not fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep. I agree.
that's uh, that's one of those things. Some people. This goes back to what we talked about last time. They want the look, like Joe said. They want the look, but they don't have all those other things that are required to get that look.
Yep.
It's like I can't give that to you.
It's so easy to make an excuse. You see it
Yeah,
with people you coach, you see it with people at the gym, and I hear people make excuses. I'm like, man, if that was enough to make me not go to the gym for the day or not eat a meal, I would have never even made it on stage the first time I competed at a level 1 show. Like,
yeah,
You
how
you
bad do
you
you want to do it?
you gotta want this. I can't want this for you,
Yeah.
right? Nobody else can want it for you. You guys know Prime Time, Deion Sanders, right?
Oh
He's
yeah.
my guy. I love Prime, right? And he's one of his things that he says, I think about this all the time. He's like, you gotta want this.
Yeah.
And then you gotta work it, and then you have the opportunity to win it,
Yeah.
right? But those things, those three things that sound so simple, it is not. Wanting it is a very difficult thing because of all the adversity you're going to go through and the things that are going to happen that aren't, as productive, right? The times where you hit walls and plateaus in your prep or your off season, and then doing the work. Obviously, bodybuilding is expensive. It's time consuming, and there's a lot of different things. But if you can control those different variables, then you, again, like he was saying, you have the opportunity to win because you did those things, you controlled those things, even if it wasn't easier. Those things are hard. You have an opportunity to win or do well. So uh, it's a lot of different simple things that aren't that simple. It's really hard to explain. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah,
It's not
the
simple
first
to
one
do
isn't
them
simple
all.
at all. Go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say like a lot of them seem simple, but in and of themselves, but being able to link them together is the hard part.
Yeah,
Just starting with what it means to want something,
yeah.
right? And I don't want to get, well, we can start the podcast from right here and start all over because I'm like, dude, what does it mean to actually want something? It's the same idea about and that believing something, right? When I sit down in a chair, I don't test to make sure the chair, okay, yeah, yeah, oh, it's gonna sit, it's gonna hold me. No, I believe the chair is gonna hold me, and I plop my fat ass on it like I ain't got nothing to worry about. And and so the same thing applies to want. I can tell you that I want X, Y, or Z, but I'll know, everyone will know if I want it by the effort I put in and the results I get from all that effort. How much more do we see that in an adult when they tell you what they want and then they show you what they want? So
What
I
what you
have a
just said, is exactly it, showing
yes,
the actions that you take that shows if you really want something. And there, I think there's another aspect of wanting something, and that's love,
yeah,
right? And if you love something, if you truly love something, I know this sounds really corny, but bodybuilding actually taught me what love really is. Because
man, we
if
like
you really if you really love something, you're going to give and do whatever you have to do for that. Whether it's a person, whether it's a thing, whatever it is. If you love something, you'll make sacrifices, you'll do stuff that you don't necessarily want to do, but you know that it's required or necessary. Like, bodybuilding teaches you a lot of different things, but it definitely taught me what love is because I've been doing this for 20 years, and I can tell you that I love it just as much now as I did when I was 16. And it's because of the way it makes me feel and all of those different things that it does for you. It teaches you self-discipline, work ethic, all that stuff. And loving something is a part of that want. Like, if you
yeah,
love it, you're gonna do what it requires, even if it's ugly, even if it's hard, even if it's expensive, whatever it is. That's another aspect of the want, right?
Yeah.
Ronnie Coleman said that in his video when he was changing in the locker room from his police, from his police job, and he was like, there's not a whole lot you wouldn't do for something that you love doing.
Yep.
And that's why he could work 8-hour days plus as a cop, still get his meals in, and then go do his bodybuilding stuff. Two-time Mr. Olympia still had a full-time job. You don't hear that ever anymore, ever.
No.
I can't think of anyone, certainly not since him, but those guys are few and far between at that level.
Mhm.
And the point you just made is the reason why. They loved what they were doing so much that I know I'm going to have to sacrifice some things here or there, but if it means I can do this and I can do it at this level, that's all right with me. Um, yeah, I think that's huge because that is the mentality, right? It's the mentality of I want this. Let me show you how much. And if if we look at this in terms of what has bodybuilding taught you, there's so much to pull from. And it's not necessarily the exact same thing for everyone, but there are some themes that I think exist across all of us as competitors. The discipline, um, learning how to shape your behavior in such a way that it is aligned with your goals, which goes back to the wanting, right? And so there's so much that I feel like I'm still learning from this, even even in terms of communicating. Like if you have a coach, you know how easy it is to lie to your coach and say, "Yeah, I did. I've seen this happen. I'm not one of these guys who will do this, but I've seen this one and I just can't wrap my head around it. You did your cardio because you knew you had to report that you did your cardio, but you cut it like 30 seconds short." I'm like, 30 seconds? You can't do 30 more seconds? You sit on the toilet longer than that.
What if you're on stage for another 30 seconds? You can be able to hold those poses for another
Exactly.
30 seconds?
Exactly. So, it teaches you a lot of stuff. Being honest with yourself, how to be aware, increasing that self-awareness. Because how many guys do we see out there, thanks to social media, has been such a wonderful blessing in terms of exposing all the variety of humans that exist. They think they look like something that is not what they are. It's like, dude, I don't know what you see in the mirror, but you see something that the rest of us don't see. Now, I am guilty of this, but most of us do it in the other direction. It's usually, it's just not enough. It's not enough. All I can see are the flaws. Like I see, like just like we were talking about with Universe.
Yeah.
Joe comes out, and I'm like, well, I'm definitely not getting first. And so there are some people though who, and I'm not poo-pooing on those people. But bodybuilding is very quick to teach you self-awareness because you know what? They're going to let you know when they're judging you up there and you're thinking you should be first call out and you're not. So I had a kid ask me this at the gym before, and clients have asked, but it's always interesting when somebody at the gym does. How do you know all this stuff? Right? You ever get hit with that question? Like you get asked something and you explain, you give a quick answer, right? Whether you're at the gym
Oh,
or
yeah.
or whatever, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, how'd you learn all this? How do you know all that?" My
Well,
first thought is, I don't know that much.
yeah. And anything that we do know is just from time.
Yeah,
Like, when the way it was when I was coming up, like, and you guys, it may have been similar for you because it was around the same time period. Um, when I was coming up, you would see the biggest guys in the gym, and you're like, I should probably talk to that guy and see what he's doing, or ask him how he got to be that way, or what get tips from those guys, right? And you go up to them, and you're scared and you're nervous, and you're like, oh, this guy might kick my ass, but you talk to him, and he turns out to be the nicest guy ever.
yeah,
And intimidating as hell, but you talk to him and he's like the nicest guy ever, and he tells you, they'll tell you, what works for them and how, and you do that over time, over the years, you do that enough and you gain all this knowledge from just asking questions and trial and error, doing it yourself. And then accumulating all that knowledge over the years from YouTube and reading books. And I'm pretty sure everybody's read the Arnold Encyclopedia of
Course.
bodybuilding,
yeah,
that kind of stuff. And you gather all this knowledge over time, and then you find yourself 20 years later being that guy in the gym who people come up to and go, hey, what do you, and you're like, the roles have reversed. Now I'm
yeah,
the one that people are asking questions to, and I'm like, holy crap, like
Yeah.
life is coming full circle now. And it's just, that's how it was, and it's crazy that it's that way now.
Yeah, that's funny. I was at my mom's house the other day, and I my sister was there, and we got on the topic of diet or something. I don't remember exactly how it came up, and it was funny because we were talking about 6,000 calories a day or something, and my sister's like 5'9", 120 pounds, she's a skinny little thing. She's like, I could eat that, and I was like, no, you can't. I was like, maybe for a day or two, and she's like,
Not in clean food. No way.
yeah, I was like, and plain food, but it got to the point. She's like, what do you think? You're like you're an expert in nutrition, and like it clicked in my head. I was like, I kind of am, actually, and especially in this room right now. Yeah, I'm the professional athlete. It's kind of like, yeah,
Yeah,
I am by definition an expert in this now. And I never really thought about it that way until, she like asked me that question and made me think about it.
that's funny. Yeah, I guess my take on it is um it's relative, right?
Mhm.
I hate I've struggled with consistently putting out any educational kind of content stuff because in my mind there should only be a very small base that does that because there are only certain folks that I look at and say, this person knows the in and out of this. But the problem is, in reality, anybody on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, can put out whatever without any level of authority or knowledge or insight or whatever. And so, relative to those guys and girls that I look at, I think I don't know shit. I look at Chris, I look at even Phil Viz, Dom Cardone, Andrew Barry. Uh, It's a long list, dude. I have a list that I have written down when people ask me, "Hey, who should I watch or who should I talk to?" And I go through this list. Like these are the people. I don't know if they got a wait list or not, but these are the people that I look at. Um, there's so many, but to me, I don't know anything. They have forgotten more than I know, and so the if some to answer that question, I usually start there, and then I say, well, to tell you how I know what I do know, the little that I think I do know, it started like James said. It started back in the day when all we had was magazines, and then it was forums, and it was those guys in the gym. Those were the three things. And
Mhm.
I was a creeper. On the forums, I didn't post nothing. All I did was suck in all the comments and the posts and the information. And then I go apply it and see what happens. And it was mostly around training and food, but I was always scared of the food part because I was worried for no rational reason that I would get fat. I've never been fat, but I was always scared that I'm going to eat all this carbs and I'm going to be turned into the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters. And so, it took Chris Tuttle fixing that mindset for me.
Yeah.
But that's where it started. And then eventually I go to school and, the that set a strong foundation. And I don't think everyone needs to do that. It just helps a lot. And then it became, I'm in J31 with, John Jewett's course. I have a mentor in Chris and all these other things that added on to that. But ultimately, it was like James said, it's time and experience. The experience part is probably the most significant. As athletes, especially when you're older, if you start later, you don't have as much time to screw around and make mistakes. So I usually encourage anyone who is like, yeah, I want to compete or I want to go even further, I want to get a pro card. You you're 35 years old, you need a coach. You don't have time to figure out what not to do and make all the mistakes that we had time to make in our 20s because when you finally figure it out at your age, you're going to be broken physically and even older and not as responsive and all these other things. You don't have time to waste. And so, the coaching part is an efficiency. The mentorship is an efficiency. The courses are just another means by which to kind of skip some of the, I don't want to call it a shortcut, but I mean, that's effectively what it is. You're getting around some of the mistakes because you have someone else teaching you or showing you, don't do these things. That's something that even like Jordan Peters would say. He's like, I made all these crazy, crazy mistakes and I'm putting all this stuff together so that you guys don't have to go through the stupid stuff I did. The crazy cycles or, the training.
Yeah.
Um,
If I could go back, I would probably have gotten a coach a little earlier. I think it was
yeah,
cool that I did my first show, and I feel like I did pretty well my
yeah,
first show, but then the second, and especially going to a national level show and kind of trying to at my own hand by myself, I think I've learned so much more having a coach now. It was cool to learn the basics and kind of understand what I was doing, but like you said, it's an efficiency. I've learned so much more. I've surrounded myself with people that are way smarter than me, and I think that's a great way to continue getting smarter yourself. Is don't be the biggest, don't be the strongest, don't be the smartest person in the room.
yeah.
If you're trying to increase in any of those atmospheres, you got to surround yourself with people that are better than you, that know more than you.
And
One,
that's,
one, one thing that's important with that though is making sure that you get the right coach.
yes,
Correct. Yeah.
There's people out there that they might be coaches, but they're not necessarily the coach for you. And that could be for multiple reasons, whether it's personality, whether it's the way they conduct themselves, or how they approach nutrition or
Yeah.
supplementation or prep. And there's coaches out there that aren't the best for certain individuals. So you have to kind of take a look at that and say,
Yeah.
the coach I have or the coach who you're working with, is this somebody who understands me, understands my background, where I come from, how I
Correct.
want to operate my goals? Are they aligned with me on what I'm trying to do, or are they not? And if they're not, you probably should be coached by that person because if they don't believe in you and your potential, then they're going to coach you at that type of level, right? So, uh, getting the right coach is a huge part of it too. It's not just having a coach because you can have a coach and you can see no progress for
yeah.
6 7 years, and
Or even
that's another thing. It's a crappy part of the sport is if you have the wrong coach, you might just be spinning your wheels for that amount of time, and then you find the right coach and you take off, right? So
Yeah.
it's very important that if you do go the coach route, you make sure that that person is
there's a
aligned
lot
with
of
you
very unqualified coaches out there
for
now
sure,
on social
for
media.
sure.
Yeah.
But even if you weed those out, like what James is saying, there's lots of qualified coaches that might not still be a good fit for you. Like for me, I'm extremely analytical. I'm extremely type A. I'm very I like to have my process. I like to have my routine. I like to measure every single thing to the gram. I don't like any uncertainty. And that when I started working with CJ, he's worse than I am. So it was like a great fit because he's like, how much water did you have? And I was like, 250 ounces. He's like, weren't you supposed to have 254? And I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's how it's gonna be. I was like, okay, now I get it. Like
Wait a minute. What is this? What is this ounces thing? I don't understand. I
yeah.
only work in the metric system.
Well,
Rams.
32 ounces, bro. I fill this up exactly to the top and I do derivatives of that.
I'm gonna need that in milliliters, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? This speaks to another point now that I'm thinking about it. You also want a coach who will be honest with you and isn't just trying to take your money.
Correct.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
if you have a coach who can't tell you the truth as they see it, then they could be leading you down a road down months and months of payments, years of payments, and
Mhm.
string you along. And maybe you're making some improvements and some progress. But in their head, they're like, this person's never going to get to where we agreed on as an objective. But they don't tell you that
Yeah.
because they're like, this is a paycheck. That's no good.
Mhm.
That is no good. And in my mind, it's kind of unethical. But you know, you want. I remember going into it. It was 2016. I was looking for a coach. Wasn't trying to compete. I just wanted to get bigger. and I had a list of things I wanted out of a coach, and Chris met all of those marks. Um, at the time, I wasn't thinking like this. I just got lucky. He's a high quality person.
Mhm.
But you need somebody that personality wise is going to align with your own, and agree on the approach, because I can't tell you, I won't say names because I've got clients who have worked with other bigger name coaches, and I respect the coach they worked with. I've had messages with some of these coaches. Some of them I've met in person and talked to, but for them it didn't work out. And I'm like, okay, it's not because that person didn't have the skills, didn't know what they were doing, doesn't have a freaking crazy awesome track record. This is because of something less tangible. This is a personality issue. This is a something didn't align for you guys. Um, that's huge. You got to be on the same. You got to have that level of at least be able to agree on certain things and the approach. And I don't know. I don't know how it works if you don't have that.
Agreed.
I'm gonna take it back full circle. I think we'll take it back full circle because I like what James was saying. The mental side of bodybuilding, there were two things that I think either you said this or I just wrote them down as kind of under that umbrella. I think you said this specifically, kind of what you've been through and what you're going through now. And the reason I like that so much is bodybuilding is, I know we call it a lifestyle, but it isn't life itself, right? Life is still going on outside of bodybuilding. And even the top Olympians, whether we whether it's been stated outright or not, that is the case. And we can see it, right? You can see it because it ekes into their bodybuilding life when they have external stressors that have nothing to do with bodybuilding impacting their bodybuilding, because bodybuilding itself isn't life. Life is still happening. And so um it just, yeah, those two prompts kind of had my brain going all over the place, man. Uh and I thought it was interesting. And the only challenge with those questions is how how deep down the personal rabbit hole you want to go. Um, because I remember I've yeah, okay. When I was working with Chris. This was before, shoot. Yeah, this was after deployment. This was sometime around COVID, before COVID hit, I think. And he was gonna have me do a show. He's like, dude, you need to do a show. Um, and I ended up pulling out, but that was because life was happening. And I was going through a lot of stuff at home, uh, family wise, and it it ultimately translated into so much stress. There was no way I was going to be able to pull off a prep. Now, I didn't completely understand that at the time. I wasn't thinking in terms of cortisol. I wasn't thinking in terms of sleep. I was just thinking in terms of mental capacity. um, but we look at guys, and I'm only going to call it out because he's been so vocal about it. We look at guys like Nick Walker and the stress, the external stressors that he's talked about impacting his prep, impacting him making decisions on coaching, or impacting him on sponsorship stuff. And his life is very heavily bodybuilding. Um, and so they tend to bleed into each other a little bit, but at the same time, some of those things had very little to do with, hey, you can still go eat, you can still go do your cardio, you can still go, make sure you get your sleep. Um, but life tends to affect us in such a way that even though you might want to do those things and you have the desire and the discipline, is too overwhelming. And you can't overcome those things with your cycle. You can't overcome those things with your coach. You can't overcome those things necessarily with any of these peptides that exist. I'll take all these nootropics, or I'll take BPC and TB 500 or thymosin, beta 4. I'll take all of these things, and I'll overcome all the life stressors that are happening. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen that way. Um, and so yeah, I don't know if that's the path you were thinking about going down when you mentioned it. But those were the thoughts that kind of started going through my head.
Yeah, I mean, and I've had this conversation with other competitors, even my girlfriend, who's also an Olympian. Um, when people are like, "Hey, I'm going to do a prep. I'm going to prep for the Tampa Pro, Chicago Pro, whatever it is," and they decide that. Do they also consider what's going on in my life right now, and is that going to cause any issues for me from now until the show? And that's something that needs to be considered when people make decisions like that. Like, hey, I want to do this show. Okay, well, that's 6 months away. It's 3 or 4 months away. What's going on in between that time? And is that going to impact you? Right? We're talking about financial stuff. We're talking about job related stuff. We're talking about personal life stuff, with your family or your spouse or whatever those things are. Do they support you in that? Like, that's a big thing. Are your family, your job, those your spouse, or like are those things supporting you in your quest to do X show? And if they're not, if you have all these external factors that are going against you in your quest to do that show, it's probably not going to turn out the way that you desire. And that's because those things are, like you were saying about cortisol and all that stuff, those things are going to impact you. And you can try to muscle through it and push through it as much as possible. But would the outcome be much better if you didn't have those things as opposed to dealing with those things? It's it's something you have to consider when you decide to do a prep. Is my life aligning with my decision to do a prep?
Yeah.
If it's not, you probably need to reconsider doing one and maybe put it off until your life does align with it, because uh, going against the grain, right, is a lot harder than if everything is going in your favor. So can a successful prep be done with difficult external factors? Yes. But it's much more likely in a sport that is very unpredictable that if you don't have those external factors going against you, that you're going to be successful. You'll
Yeah.
be much more likely to be successful if you don't have that deal with that crap, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got any thoughts on that, Joe?
Yeah, es- I mean, I think a lot of amateur athletes are going to probably be listening to this podcast versus, professional athletes. So, amateur athletes, this isn't your job. You're going to have to, it's not cheap. People, I think, grossly underestimate how expensive a prep is between the food, the supplements, then the registration fees, the memberships, the tanning, if you're
The
a
time
girl, the
commitment.
bikini, the hair, the makeup, all that stuff. And I think a lot of people don't take into account what that's going to do to their stress levels when they're already probably living paycheck to paycheck and they're adding all this external extra financial burden to themselves. So
Yeah.
things like that you got to take into account. Like if you don't have a stable job, maybe try to figure that out first. Um, yeah, I think that you, like James said, you have to be in a good spot. You have to make sure that, you know, you can handle the stress. There's obviously going to be some inevitable stress, but you have to be able to evaluate if it's going to be too much.
Man, you triggered me with that one. Uh, the number of people who I've had to have that conversation with, and you usually can't be very, at least for me, I struggle with being too direct on that one because I don't
Yeah,
ask people for their financials. I'm not like, I need to see your bank statements. What do you got in savings, right?
yeah,
It's none of my business.
yep,
Um, but you try to let them know, look, stability first and foremost. Okay. If we're
yep,
gonna we're gonna do all this stuff and you want to go compete, We're going to go through an improvement phase or an off season or whatever you want to call it, and then go into prep. I need you to be stable
Yeah.
across as many aspects of your life as possible. But if nothing else, relationships and financials, okay,
Yeah.
and obviously health. But that part I can help with. I can't help you with your financial issues. I can't really help you, even though I've had people try to get me to help you with your relationship troubles,
Mhm.
right? I don't want your mom emailing me, and I've been there.
You
And
don't
I'm
want
like,
to be you don't want to be Dr. Dom, the love
yeah,
doctor.
yeah. I'm like, look, man, I don't have Dr. Phil on speed dial. I can't ask him for help on what to do about, like I think we talked about this last time. Um, I had a client who really, really good dude, really good guy. Um, and he wanted to compete. And he really wanted to compete. And he really wanted to change his physique and all this stuff. But unfortunately his wife wasn't on board. And I will tell you that if you don't have the relationship stuff down, you ain't, and you're in one and you want to stay in one and finish your prep and compete and still have a relationship, you got to have that shit down first because if they're not on board with what you're doing, um, I don't know how you're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean
So,
that's an excellent point. Like relationships, and there's been multiple stories about how bodybuilding has ruined people's relationships, or it's caused people to end their relationships or break up and
yeah,
whatnot. And I don't think bodybuilding in itself causes that. I think it's people not handling the requirements of bodybuilding that led to that. So there has to be, it goes back to alignment, right? You
yeah,
have to have these things in alignment with your life. If your spouse is not on board with you being on a prep, you either need to not do a prep or you need to break up with that person because it's going to go down a bad path if you still continue to do it when they're not on board with it, because the way you feel when you're on prep, especially at the end, and the things that you have to deal with, and Samson Dowda made a really good point. He was doing a press conference over in Europe before the Olympia, and he was saying like if you're dating or married to somebody in the bodybuilding world, get ready at some point because they're going to be an asshole.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, and it's just part of it. It's part of the game. And I can say from my experience, like I've had relationships in my life where it didn't work out because of my bodybuilding, right? And I have mine that does because of it. So you if it aligns with you, good. But if it doesn't align with you, you got to really rethink what you're doing because uh, there's so many failure stories as opposed to success stories out there as far as relationships and bodybuilding. You don't see a lot of successful relationships in bodybuilding where the athlete's not supported, right?
oh yeah. And I think that's a general um, requirement, right? It doesn't have to be bodybuilding. Whatever your career is, if your spouse
Whatever it is.
isn't supporting what you're doing, you're gonna have to have a pretty long, deep conversation because um
Same with jobs, same with everything.
yeah,
If your boss isn't on board with what you're doing, hey,
Yeah.
like, I know you're doing this bodybuilding thing, but for your job, you're supposed to be traveling and you're supposed to be going all these places. And you said you don't want to do that because you got to go to the gym. Well, you got to decide if you want this job or you want to keep being a bodybuilder. And that's actually happened. Right. And those are the things I'm talking about with alignment. Like alignment is such a big deal in sport. Like on so many different fronts. So
yeah. And for anybody who sees this who isn't in a relationship and might end up in one, um, you got to be upfront with the person. They need to know where bodybuilding fits in your life and what that looks like. Because I knew a guy, I didn't know him well. Um, he competed. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to tell this story on here. I'll tell you because Joe knows, I think you know this person.
Okay.
We can talk about it later.
Yeah.
But in a general sense, if you're into this and this is what you love to do. And even if you're not trying to go pro, you just like competing. You get in a relationship with someone who is not at all into this or aware of it or even heavily into fitness.
Mhm.
And then you tell them you're going to go do a show and they didn't sign up for that or they didn't know they were signing up for that. That's on you.
Mhm.
Um, so you have to, you want to be clear. Uh, if you're not planning on changing your bodybuilding lifestyle, you need to be, I think this goes for most things though, but I've seen it where somebody, they end up in a relationship, everything's great, and then they decide they want to be a bodybuilder. That person didn't sign up for that. So if they don't support it, that's not necessarily on them because what they signed up for wasn't that. So you guys have to come to an agreement and an understanding, um, which is not, which is easier said than done. But yeah, the relationships and bodybuilding thing, I think could be talked to. I know other
We
folks.
could have an entire podcast on
Yeah.
that topic by
Yeah.
itself.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And it's nice when it does work out. It's
Yeah.
nice when the partner is all on board and is like, I will cook your meals or I will do whatever to help you in prep with shows or and vice versa. If you both are competing and you both do that for each other, awesome. I look at it as when my wife and I were both on sea duty at the same time and she had to deploy, she came back, then I had to deploy. That's what it's like. If if one of us was like, nah, F this, I didn't sign up for this, you need to be home or whatever, it would never have worked. It would have been like, pulling chalks and out. This ain't gonna work. You got to be able to support each other. Um, but I think that also means for guys like us, we have to remember we got to give back.
For sure.
It
Yeah.
can't be all one way, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh
What I'll say with that is you know, I went, you obviously guys know we talk about it all the time. I did Pittsburgh and New York earlier this year. Um, my girlfriend's been super helpful, super supportive of me. We actually did Pittsburgh together.
yeah,
But then the week after, she elected not to do New York. But that week for New York, she was on point with everything I needed, helped me out so much with everything. And I actually did way better at New York. So it does have an effect when you have a supportive partner who is there for you, has your back, you can trust them, and it is super helpful. But then you're right, you do have to give back, and when their birthdays come around, be super into their birthday and making them feel special, or take them out to dinner and give that time back to them when you're no longer in prep, right?
yeah,
That's a big thing. That's an important point that you made, Dom. Is yeah, it's not always about you. It's going to be at some point when you're in prep, but like you do have to balance it back out by giving back, right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
speaking of the be honest thing, I got a good story. I have a good friend. She's an amateur competitor, and she started dating a very high level pro. I'm not going to say the name, but
yeah,
when it got to the point of getting a little more serious, he straight up told her, he's like, I don't want you to compete. He's like, this is my life. I need you to be 100% supportive of my competitions, and I can't deal with you being in prep. He's like, and that kind of ended things between them. But like, I gave him a ton of credit for that. Like, he was honest. He didn't, it sucked. I'm sure they, liked spending time with each other, but like, he knows what he needs and he knows how competitive and how focused he needs to be. And he was upfront about it. And I think that sometimes you got to have those hard conversations, even though you don't want to, maybe in the time.
that's true. And that is
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
And I,
theme,
Most people don't do
the
that.
theme here is alignment, right?
yep.
Yeah.
Got to have alignment in your life in
Yeah.
bodybuilding. So many different things have to align for success.
Yep.